Hello?
Tracy, it's Phil.
Phil, where the hell are you guys? I'm freaking out.
Yeah, listen. Uh, we fucked up.
What?
The bachelor party, the whole night. Things got out of control, and we lost Doug.
What?
We can't find Doug.
What are you saying, Phil? We're getting married in 5 hours.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
All right. Well, here we are. I don't know if we could be put any better than that. 2024 Mike and Rico show. We're not doing a national show. We're doing 2024 State of the Noles. 0-3. I don't think anybody in the country thought we'd be here. We certainly did not think we would be here. I don't remember a season in which I've pegged Florida State more incorrectly as far as projection and what we would do on the field. And now we're here to talk about it. And we're not here to break down film. It's painful to watch, and I don't know that that's really where the answers are going to be. I think what we want to do in this show is talk about the future, talk about things that can get better, and maybe rehash a decision that led to the opening scene of why we chose that. We're going to talk about Tate Rodemaker, and we're going to talk about what could have been a little bit, and only for the purpose of not making this mistake again. With that being said, Mike, do you have some opening thoughts before we jump into this? Because there's a lot to get into.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are going to have a viewpoint, and we've already seen that with FSU fans that it's all DJU and it's hey DJU just stinks and that's it and that's the problem. But I think the number one thing of why we see what we've seen so far is how pitiful their running game is. I think that sets up everything they do. Um, I've talked to my brother tonight, told him like, look, if you're looking for one thing that has to change and has to improve, if you want to, whether you play Brock Glenn or you play DJU or you play Luke Cromwell, it doesn't matter who you play, they have to find a way to generate a way to run the ball, whether that's you have Brock in the game with DJU at the same time or something that generates a running game with a threat to you running the ball. I think that's the number one key. And number one, I think it starts with running game and it ends with running game. That has to be the number one thing that I look at FSU when I watch them. Every team that Norvell's had, whether you go back to Memphis or FSU, they run the ball really well. That's what he does. That's his forte. And to me, that's where it all starts. When I look at the problems they have, you have to be able to run the ball. They have 46 yards, I think you told me, on the year for running. You that there's no way you can. And so the problem is, and for all the DJ haters that are coming there and they're like, "Oh, it's all DJ." It's like when you can't run the ball, you're putting all the pressure to him due to come in there and make passes. And yes, DJ's missing a lot of passes. He's doing a lot of things that he's certainly hurting him, but you're putting all the pressure of him to make throws. Whereas when they started this offense this year, the plan was, and why me and Rico thought it would work so well was they're going to run the ball pretty effectively. And then DJ is going to make passes when you need to keep people off their toes. And I think that's really how this thing really just fell off the wheels was their inability to run the football. I think that's the number one thing that if you're looking from an offensive standpoint, I think that's what they have to fix. There's plenty of issues, but and there's plenty of blame to go around. But I think overall they have to figure out how to run the ball if they're going to get this thing shifted some.
Well, I brought the stats up here so we can just talk about kind of where we're at, and it should be shown on the
Yep.
screen here. DJU has 666 total passing yards. He's got a 57% completion percentage. He's got one touchdown and two picks. There's just no pop in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to explain. Is it all DJU? No, it's not. But DJU is operating this offense almost like he's got, cement in his boots. Everything is so slow.
Mhm.
And the biggest complaint that I have, aside from DJU just not being explosive as a quarterback, is the freaking time it takes to get a play in. My God, I have never seen an offense take this long to get a play
Yeah.
in. I mean, it's crazy. We noticed it in the Georgia Tech game, and it was frustrating, but it was a close game, and we were right there, and we got the score to tie it. And we thought that maybe that it would work out, but it hasn't gotten any better. This staff has done a terrible job getting plays in a timely fashion. We've got a defense on the heels, and they get the full 30 some odd seconds to
Mhm.
rest up and ready up for the play, and it makes no sense.
Yeah.
That bothers me as much as anything. DJU's got twice the picks as TDs. Never would have thought that. This guy's looked good as a quarterback everywhere he's been. Even
Yep.
when he struggled at Clemson, he didn't look like this. Went to Oregon State, definitely didn't look like this. So there's obviously miscommunication with the staff. And we're not here to beat up on the coaches because I understand everybody's got some stake in this, but there's
Yeah.
been some mishandling of him. There's been some poor coaching at DJU, and DJU has not performed anywhere near the expectations. And there's no immediacy, there's no fire, there's no explosiveness in this guy, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of just personal fire, which I have a big problem with because that doesn't work at Florida State.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, no doubt about that. And I'll just go back to my start of the point was there was a plan of what they thought this would offense look like, and once they couldn't run the ball, that plan changed. But I agree with you. There's things where it looks very slow motion like,
Yeah,
and when you can't run the ball, it makes everyone uncomfortable. He was always going to be uncomfortable, maybe getting used to just timing with all these guys, but it's really thrown everything off. But I mean, he deserves blame just like anybody else. But
Mhm.
I think overall, it's just when you can't run the ball, it really just screwed up the whole plan, and they haven't found a way to effectively find something that works as far as running, and so that's something, that's kind of the quandary of really that's what's thrown all this in a loop. But yeah, DJ is not, there's been missed touchdowns, but there's also been drop touchdowns, so it's just an offense that looks very uncomfortable, and until they can
Yeah.
run the ball or some effectiveness of running the ball where it can loosen up defenses, i think um I think you're going to see much of the same until that starts to change.
Yeah, you look at the rushing stats here. Now, if you take away that first drive against Georgia Tech and Ireland where Tor Philly ripped off a 30-something yard run, I mean, Tor Philly's got 30 yards rushing outside of that play.
Yeah.
Roydale Williams was a big-time acquisition in the portal. We thought we were getting a hell of a back. Put the ball on the ground first drive, really set the tone for that game last week. I mean, you're coming
Yep.
off of a bye week. You're 0-2. You really need a win. First drive of the game, one of our prized guys that we got in the portal,
Yeah.
good enough to play for Nick Saban, and he's here and puts the ball on the deck. It's a microcosm of kind of what's going on with our rushing attack. He's got 54 yards in the year, 2.7 yards per carry. That's abysmal.
Yep.
Cam Davis, 5-star freshman, has got 24 yards on the year. Jalen Lucas, who's out for the year because when it rains, it pours in Tally, he's got 13 yards for the year. Keziah Holmes has 12 yards for the year. And DJ Uyangalele has negative 14 for the year because that's obviously adding up sack
Yeah.
yardage. So the total number, ladies and gentlemen, is the Florida State football Seminoles have 156 yards on 71 carries for a 2.2 yard average per carry with a long of 28. So I stand corrected that total Philly run was 28 yards. That's absolutely disgusting. And that's absolutely unsatisfactory on every level. And that is not even Division I, let alone Power 5. There's no excuse for this. We have never run the ball this poorly ever since I've been alive.
Yeah.
And there's just no excuse for this. You can't run an effective offense when you're running the ball for a 2.2 yard per carry average. That's just shameful. There's no other way to put it. I mean, we can sit here and say we like this guy on the staff, we like these guys, this, that, and the other. That's freaking goddamn shameful. That's just not even Division I level. Through 3 games, okay? So we've got 1/4 of the season down, and that's what we got to show for our rushing offense. All these guys we get in the portal, 5-star back, this, that, the other, 156 yards on 71 carries.
Yep. It's pitiful. It's very bad. I think it's just above Miami, Ohio, or they're just behind Miami, Ohio. in rushing attack. And as I said, Norvell's offenses, you look at every offense he's run, whether it's the one they had last year, last 3 years, or even back to Memphis when they had my dude Tony Pollard. They were able to run the ball. I mean, that's what they do, and that sets up everything they do as far as running the ball. If you watch their offenses, like you could look at FSU, they run when Norvell's offenses, they run the ball. So when you can't effectively do what your strength is, it's going to throw everything in a conundrum, and everything looks messed up and discombobulated. And then you add that with new guys that now you have to throw the ball to new players like Jalen Brown and Malik Benson and all these guys. So you're putting more pressure on your new quarterback, and that's making him uncomfortable. So it's like it's just a mess.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that when you bring up, and we're going to go to, we're going to talk about the offense and then separate and then talk about the defense.
Yeah.
I think the defense has definitely played a lot better than the offense. But when you talk about receiving, Malik Benson has 12 receptions, 171 yards, no touchdowns. Ja'Kai Douglas has 9 receptions, 138 yards. A guy that really popped in the Boston College game who looked like a playmaker, Kentron Poitier's got 4 catches for 94 yards. He's got the only touchdowns, 4 catches.
Yep.
In 3 games. I mean, DJU's got 99 attempts, 56 completions, where it's just this offense right now is not pushing the ball downfield, and we're not pushing the ball downfield to guys who can make plays. And I don't understand, because if you turn on the 2022, the 2023 Noles, we push the ball downfield. We're making plays. I don't understand where this regression came from or what's going on to where we can no longer push the ball downfield effectively. DJU has a strong arm, and it's just, it's got to come back to the quarterback position ultimately. I don't think these receivers have changed. They didn't get any slower. You have a 5-star in Hakeem Williams. We've got 3 catches to the guy for 16 yards. I mean, we got to run more than a damn wide receiver screen in a bubble to a 5-star receiver. I'm so displeased with the passing offense, the coordination of it, and the execution has just been so poor. In addition to a running game that gets 2.2 yards a carry, this is the worst offense I've ever seen at FSU.
It's one of the worst I've seen, although I've seen some bad ones over my years since I'm born in Tallahassee, and I've seen it since I'm in the 50s now, and I was watching FSU when I was 5. So I've seen some bad ones, but this is one of the worst I've seen. It's just the whole thing is like there's no flow to what they do, and I think a lot of that's they're not getting chunk yards on their first down. Where last year when you watch them, they would get chunk yards on first down or second down. They were very rarely, if they were in third down, it was like third and short, and you had Jordan Travis. It was such a threat that you could run a whole different multiple of things. And now this year, you just don't have. You're not getting the chunk plays or the 7 yards that you want on first down, and it's really just killing this offense because there's no flow to what they're doing. I know what they want to do. I know they want to run the ball, mix it up with the pass, and hit some explosive plays. But the problem is they're not getting into that, and I think that's where the problems are lying, compared to what they do in practice to what is seeing executed on the field. And so I think they're really struggling on these first and second downs.
Well, let's take a look here. 2023 offense. We make the decision to go portal. Tate Rodemaker and his parents found out around the bowl game, which was just an absolute mess. What happened to Florida State football last year was an absolute tragedy. It's tragedy for sport, let alone just Florida State. You have an undefeated Power 5 conference champion, didn't lose, went through a lot of adversity, had a backup quarterback, which we're going to take a look at here. And I challenge anybody to look at this film and tell me that this kid couldn't run the offense and have us competing last year with a slew of NFL talent around him. But anyway, long story short, Tate Rodemaker decides to enter the portal. Did not feel comfortable that Mike Norvell was going to give him a legitimate fair shot to be the starter. So essentially, we made the cognitive decision that we're going to go portal and we weren't going to go Tate. And just some history, looking back at Florida State, I mean, I talked to Mike earlier, and we're OGs to this, so we're not new to this. We're true to this, and we've covered a lot of quarterbacks. And I know our good friend Charlie Ward, he told us to stick with Tate last year. He said we shouldn't go portal. He said we should ride with Tate, and he was right because he knows some things. He's done some things, and he's accomplished some things, and he knew some things. And after Charlie Ward went to the New York Knicks after he won a Heisman and won us a national championship, we went to Danny Cannell. guy who waited in the wings. We didn't bring in a star freshman. I know that's kind of context because we weren't bringing in portal and all that kind of stuff back in those days.
Yeah.
But guys were waiting their turn. That was kind of the Florida State way. Guys weren't playing until they were juniors, redshirt juniors, and they were playing 2 years and then knocking it out the park. So you go Cannell, you had Kendra in there, you had Busby. I mean, you had the guys that kind of led up to Winky. Then after Winky, we went to Ricks, and we had a little bit of a black hole there. We had McPherson and some other guys mixed in there. But then we went to a freshman in Weatherford. Weatherford played. He got beat out eventually by Ponder, a guy I played with, was a hell of a quarterback, had a Heisman run until he got hurt in his shoulder his junior year, I believe it was. And then that segued into EJ Manuel. And then EJ was there until it was time for redshirt freshman Jameis. And then when Jameis was getting suspended or messing up, then, it was McGuire, and then Francois came in. And we always had a guy kind of waiting in the wing that was a guy we groomed. And we've tried to change what we did. And if you look at a couple years ago, a lot of people thought go portal instead of Jordan Travis. I was one of those people. I thought maybe we could find a better quarterback in the portal. Mike Norvell said, no, Jordan Travis is my guy. I'm sticking with my guy. And then the 2022 season happened. Terrific season. The 2023 season happened. Magical season. If Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt, he is your Heisman winner. He beat Jaden Daniels head up, outplayed him head up 2 times, and we were undefeated. He would have won the Heisman. Jordan Travis would have been your Heisman winner. He would have been the 4th quarterback for Florida State to win the Heisman. Unfortunately, he broke his leg. He would have won the Heisman. That would have happened. And that was because Norvell stuck with his guy. And so that leads us all to this decision with, do we stay with Tate or do we go portal? And the pressure was to go portal. And we went portal, and Tate took off, and it burned us because we could talk over it. But let's watch some of the film of what the guy was able to do. And immediately off the screen, it pops, the immediacy, the liveliness in the arm, the knowledge of the offense, the little innuendos. If Florida State had this kid right now, and I know this is water under the bridge, this is Monday morning quarterbacking, this football team would be 3-0. In my opinion, we'd be 3-0 if we had this kid right now. And I don't say that to try to throw salt in the wounds, but I hope that this is a lesson that we only have to learn once. The hard heads, the people who think we know it all, like myself, I hope we understand what this lesson really means. You stick with the guys that are in the locker room, because at that quarterback position, you cannot play Russian roulette with that. That is too consequential. The team revolves around that quarterback. They got to have a guy they believe in. They got to have a guy that they trust and they love and they've been through the battles with. Tate was that guy. Tate was loved by this team. He was loved by the staff. They really cared about the kid. The kid cared about them, and they believed in him. And when Tate was asked to in the Louisville game, he stepped up 2 years ago and he delivered BBs all second half when Jordan got hurt. And we can watch what he did here. And I just think this is going to be a mistake that Coach Norvell and our staff has made that is going to it's going to sting us for probably a couple years.
Yeah, we have a change at quarterback right now with Tate Roadmaker at quarterback. So it looks like Jordan Travis's night is over.
And understandably so. He finds his biggest
Quarterback position, things like this happen, Mike. And that's another guy we miss. I don't know where he's playing ball now, but he ain't playing for us, and we miss him.
Biscuit. He's over at Arizona State now.
Oh, with Kenny D. They're 3-0, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, I mean, there's a context, all this, obviously, when Tate's had an interesting career at Florida State, because his first pass he played against, I forget what team it was. It was a lower level
So pick
team.
six.
Pick six, first play. And then he, as he settled in. But the thing is, why I would have stayed with him is this guy had multiple chances to transfer. He could have left several times. Even when Jordan got the job, he could have left. He still stuck with him.
Look at the zip. Look at the zip on the ball, Mike, on the rollout, the run.
Oh,
it's just, he's so much more decisive than DJU. It's crazy.
And he's mobile. You watch him, he can move. I mean, when you look at that play right there, that keeps those linebackers and safeties preoccupied, because they have to wonder about if he's going to run or he's going to throw it. And but get back to my point, he stuck with them when most guys were already transferring, going to portal. He stuck in there, and then obviously near the end, where it was last year, where we knew it was Jordan's team and they were going for a title and all that, and there got to a point where I think Tate was kind of not checked out, but it's kind of like thinking about it. But then they had the conversation late and said, "Hey, we're going to go the portal." And I agree with you, Rico. I just think I think that was a poor decision when you look back. I didn't really think about that until Rico brought it to my attention today, and I'm a big believer, and I said this at first. I was kind of like, yeah, they could do the portal with Jordan Travis. And then more I thought about it, I was like, hey, he's been in there for 3 years. They obviously see something with him, and that's what the stunning part is. Like they went through that with Jordan Travis. You think they would follow through and do the same thing, and I think they got a little antsy and felt like, hey, there's
Look at the
something out there.
immediacy on the ball. Look
Yeah,
like the immediacy on the ball, the pop on the pass,
yeah,
and that was a little high, but it's just getting there on time. It's familiarity with the offense. There's stuff that you don't have to teach.
yeah. And,
When I look at it now, it's just, I mean, look at this ball right here. Look at the pop. Look where it's at. It's right in your workspace on time.
but
It's
it,
just, this team looks completely different a year later. It's incredible. I have followed college football probably realistically for 33, 34 years. I
yeah.
have never seen in any team, let alone my team, but in any team, I have never seen a drop off in a year like I've seen from Florida State last year to this year. I've just
Yeah,
never seen it.
and the other thing is, the players around him have to trust him. Like they don't. Nothing gets DJ. I've met DJ. He's a sweet kid. He's awesome. He's a great person and all that stuff. But the guys on that team don't know him. Like they don't trust him. And the comfort level matters with a guy like Tate that's been in the system. They're gonna be there's gonna be a connection there that you can't have. Same thing with Jordan Travis when they decide to stick with Jordan. You got to have guys that that because it, as you alluded to, it impacts everybody. It impacts the offense, impacts the defense, it impacts the confidence of the team. You just have to. I just think they look back. Maybe they. I don't know. They'll say, hey, we probably should have went a different way. But yeah, just looking at this now and just knowing Tate and knowing his recruitment, how it started. For those that don't know, he played at Valdosta High School, threw for over 4,000 yards. Was just a gunslinging guy, and all the stuff you're seeing here. But I think it's a big deal of you can't get away from what your core is of what FSU is, and we've always been a program that develops guys within the system, and when it's their time to take over. Sometimes unorthodox, sometimes follows suit of who's next. But yeah, it just feels like this would be one that would have worked, I think, a lot better than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's just the immediacy. It's the understanding of the offense. It's just being a fourth year guy. Hindsight's 2020, but it's just really tough to stomach because the quarterback makes such a monumental difference in how the offense runs. It would take guys out of the box. It would open up this passing game. It would open up these playmakers. The whole spirit of the team would just be different. Guys would be playing a little bit harder, a little bit faster as a team. When your quarterback is slogged down like ours is right now and thinking like he's taking a math test every play,
Yeah,
you can't get anywhere.
yeah,
And we had a guy who could have run this. And you know what? Looking back at it, maybe it means that you're a 10-2, 9-3 ball club. And
yeah,
I think that you've got to be careful trying to chase the playoff every year. You've got to be careful trying to chase national championship every year because there's only a few programs realistically who can do that. And I don't know that Florida State's in that position right now where every year is a national title year. I think every year we can chase a state title. I think every year we can chase an ACC title. But a national title, I don't know if it's realistic yet. We need to be realistic. We need to be honest with ourselves. The Georgias, the Bamas, the Ohio States, these are teams every year that just load up with so much. They have such a high five-star talent ratio that they can kind of do that. They're just 3-4 deep. They've got NIL down pat, and they've just got it figured out to where they can do that. I think we got greedy. I think we tried to skip a step. I think we thought we could bring a guy in who's got a powerful arm. It's his third school, which should be alarming. And we thought we could just hire a mercenary and he'd come in and kind of save the day for us. And I think we forgot what we had here in hindsight. I know it's 2020. I really think we'd be 3-0 if we had this kid right here,
yeah.
and we'd still be able to groom Glenn and Chromo Hope.
The thing is a mental part of football is a big part of the game, and mental is like
Look at his throw. Just zipping it.
not just mental for him, but mental for the other players that are playing around you, that they're comfortable, they know. And you've heard me say this when we started the show. This offense looks very uncomfortable, but if you have a guy like Tate, there's going to be a comfort level that you don't have to adjust to and slide into. Even when you go to Ireland, you're not going to be phased by that. You're going on an Ireland trip because you have your guy at quarterback that's been there. He's been in the system. He's going to tell you, be in the right spots. And like I said, this isn't a shot to DJ. I think DJ is a great quarterback. I do think DJ is a great quarterback. He's a lot better than what we've seen. But at the same time, comfort and mental toughness and mental of everybody when it comes to the season, it's a lesson to not just FSU but a lot of schools, that when you go that way, you're taking a big risk, of this guy connecting with players, especially when you have a lot of new names and new faces like Malik Benson, Jalen Brown, Roydell Williams. A lot of different new additions to that team. You have to consider all that stuff, and I think on paper, yeah, it looks really good. You think DJ had 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year, and looked very smooth. But at
Yeah.
the same time, they were running the ball really well at Oregon State and setting them up in situations. I watched a lot of their stuff the other night, running the ball, setting up him throwing. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be able to run the ball to get him in a comfort zone, and we never seem to do that throughout this season, to get him in a flow. This offense looks totally non-flowing, whatever word you can come up with, that as
No,
far
it's
as flow.
lifeless,
It
punchless,
it's just
slow.
has no flow to it. There's no chunk plays on first or second down. And then the big plays you see, even the one that you mentioned with Bertier with the touchdown, that was just
That
one
was
of those.
him.
It was just one of those explosive plays. It wasn't like
Yeah.
it was in the rhythm of the offense of what you're doing. There's no rhythm to what we're seeing so far.
Well, as we kind of shift to the future, so we've covered it. I've got on the soapbox and talked about. And again,
Yep.
this isn't bashing any players. It's not bashing
Yep.
any coaches, but it is being honest. Coaching staff's done a poor job. Players have done a poor job, and the staff has done a poor job. We made some bad decisions, and we've got to eat it. And I think it's 100% on us. I think
Yep.
some decisions could have been made different, and we'd be in a much better spot. But it is what it is at this point. The purpose of this now is, how do you fix it? This is
Yep.
not a national championship team. I highly doubt that we can get back into the ACC race, although you have to see how things shake out. I highly doubt it. But we'll see. We're going to play every game and try to win the game. But we need to start looking at the future. What do we have? So when
Yep.
we look at the roster right here, and I've got it pulled up here on our lads, I've got a bunch of pop-ups on my screen too, which is obnoxious. You look at the wide receiver position. Portier's a redshirt senior. He gone. Malik Benson's a redshirt senior. He gone. Williamson, he gone. Ja'Kai Douglas, he gone. Deuce Spann, he gone. So we're looking at the guys who are going to be here. Jalen Brown, LaWayne McCoy, Hakeem Williams, Elijah Moore, and some others. I mean, obviously we've got Destin Hill. Hopefully he will be back.
Yep.
You've got Jalen Lucas. Hopefully he will be back. And then it's where we got to start looking at getting some other guys worked in there. So Jalen Brown's a guy who plays a lot right now. Elijah Moore's a guy we all want to see. LaWayne
Yep.
McCoy's a guy we all want to see. And Hakeem Williams, brother, we're waiting. 5-star, we're waiting for it. It's got to happen. It just is. It's got to happen. We didn't see much of it last year. Started the
Yep.
year hurt. Really want to see something to get us excited because, hey, it's a money year. You leave as a junior. We know what it is. You leave as a junior, and if he has a big junior year, I'm praying for him. I hope he crushes it and he can get out of here and he can go make his money. But we got to see it. It's just seen nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, 4 catches for 13 yards or 16 yards, Mike. I mean, we got to get him going.
Yeah, and that's my other problem is, I think you mentioned to me the other night, the only freshman we're seeing on the field is Cam Davis.
The only
It's
one's
like
played.
you gotta get these guys on the field.
Yeah,
And
that's
how
crazy.
do you think you're going to recruit other players that are coming to visit to watch your team play?
Well, I'll tell
If
you how. Having coached high school football for almost 15 years and been involved, you ain't gonna get them.
yeah,
You have to
yeah,
play them. And
yeah,
there's not
there,
to get into it, but
yeah,
there's freshmen on the team right now that would really like to play. and they're not exactly being quiet about it. It's time to see these guys play.
Yeah, you got to put them on the field. So you got to see that, and people can go to War Chant. They can read my stuff of what I cover with that. I covered that, very directly. But that has to happen. But one, it helps you recruiting. But two, these guys, they have to be able to get reps to get ready for the following season. What you're going into, you just listed all the guys they're going to be gone. So you need to get these guys prepared. So they're ready to work, they're ready to get in there, and then by the time you start spring ball and in off-season workouts and all that stuff, they'll be ready to go, and they're going to be guys that are going to be competing for starting spots. But if you don't play them, it puts them almost a half a semester or summer behind.
Yeah. Now we look at the running back position. Roydell Williams, he gone. Lawrence Toa Philly, he gone. Keziah Holmes, he gone. You're really looking at Cam Davis, who I think Cam Davis is a dude. I think Cam Davis,
Yeah.
you can build your program around. He's an awesome kid, great player, 5-star from Georgia. He's already playing. He is the one freshman that we alluded to that is playing.
Yep.
He's going to be a feature guy going forward. Gives me Cam Akers kind of vibes. Not sure if he's quite as fast as Cam, but he's a hell of a player, and they trust him early, which is a great sign. So you'll have Cam Davis, you'll have Sam Singleton, Micah Danzy are the three backs that I'm showing. Do you have any other running backs that you see mixing in next year, or anybody that's in this class currently that you think can
I
help?
can't see your depth chart. So maybe if I could zoom in, but I know Sam Singleton and know Cam Davis are the ones that I hear the most. I know Singleton is likely we're gonna see more PT. I think you'll see kind of some of the stuff that Cam's getting as well. That you see him in there. Micah Danzy, certainly out of Florida High, a guy they're very excited about, can certainly do a lot of different exciting things. Certainly, they're going to bring in a running back for this upcoming class. So if whoever they get there, I think you'll see them inserted in what they do. Those are the three names that probably just jump out to me. But probably Cam's the one that you probably lean towards the most, because that's the one that I hear the most buzz about. I hear a lot about the way he works and the way he does stuff. So there's probably more, but I'm just slipping my mind as far as the backs. But I'm gonna look them up while Rico chats away about just what he likes at a running back position.
Yeah, I mean, looking to the future, we really would like to see Micah Danzy. Had a lot of stuff about camp in him. I heard a lot of stuff in camp about him. He's a guy that I'd like to see. Cam Davis, we're going to see a ton of. Sam Singleton's another guy, redshirt freshman. So you're talking about three freshmen. So we could be sitting pretty at the back here, back position in a couple years. And you add Jalen Lucas coming back next year, who I believe he's got 2 more years of eligibility. And your running back room looks decent. You may get a transfer upperclassman guy. I could see that. We probably would be in the market there, and you got to have 5 backs, and that might be the 5th guy, right? I mean, you probably have a freshman that you may want to shirt, and he'd be the 6th guy, so you operate with 5 even though you got 6. And maybe there's even a 7th guy that you shirt that's coming into class, unless he's just a humdinger and you got to get him onto the doggone field. Looking at the tight end position, Morlock's obviously struggling, but he's a redshirt senior. He gone. Brian Courtney's a junior. Jackson West is a redshirt junior. Those two will be back and be in their 4th and 5th year, respectively. And then you've got Landon Douglas, or Landon, what's Landon's last name? Thomas. Right?
Thomas. Yeah,
Landon Thomas. 5-star tight end. He should be ready next year. You probably need to add another one to the fray. I think there's another kid that I'm missing. I'm not seeing it on this depth chart. I think Powers. Do we still have Powers?
Yes, he's still on the team.
Okay. So you have 4 playable tight ends. One of them looks to be a playmaker. I'd like to see,
I think Brian Courtney's there too, but I don't know what year he is.
Yeah, I mentioned him. He's a junior. Him and Jackson West.
And then the other running back is Jalen Lucas, who's already said that he's coming back, even though he had that injury. He's coming back next year, so he's already announced that he will be back. So that's the other running back. I knew I was forgetting somebody. So he's definitely another running back. And they'll probably they're going to sign at least one from the high school, and then if they feel like there's one that they can't pass on with the portal, they might add another one.
This is where it gets a little dicey, is looking at the line, and I am super interested, intrigued to see Alex Atkins, who's going to make his debut on field. Atkins has been involved in practice, of course, and the planning of games, but he's not
Yep.
been able to coach in game because Kirby Smart snitched on him. Is what it is. That's our new way of college football. So Atkins is going to make his debut this week, and we're hoping to see some things out of the line. But when you
Yep.
look at the line and you look at what's there for the future, you got some questions. Really love Lucas Simmons, redshirt freshman. I know you're a big fan of him.
Yeah.
He looks to
Yeah.
be a fixture at tackle. Got to make that work, right? We have to make that work.
Yeah.
Brian Estes will be a redshirt junior. He'll have one more year after this year. Andre Otto is a redshirt freshman.
That's one I like a lot.
TJ
Otto.
Ferguson is a redshirt junior, so you're probably looking at him and Lucas being fixtures on the line. And then also Jalen Ely is going to be a guard spot somewhere, redshirt sophomore. And Julian Armella, I mean, that kid to me, being next to him,
Yeah.
he has a great spirit to play. I don't know what we're not bringing out of him. The guy's got the perfect body for tackle. He looks like he's got the athleticism. We got to find a way to get use out of him and get him onto the field.
Yeah, a lot of guys in there. Certainly, the one that's the most intriguing to me is the Julian Armella one because he covered this kid a lot. He's more of a guard tendency of the stuff he does, but can play tackle. I think he's kind of a mixture of he's better at guard, but he's a guy that I think you certainly got to lean on. I think Jalen Early's one that heard a lot of excitement about, but you got to see him, get him on the field and go there, and then certainly they've always done well, as far as guys and certainly getting productive players to come for the portal. So that's something they need to fix. Had a not a good year last year as far as the offense line, and then this year's not off to a good start either. So I'm interested to see how they look because this was supposed to be a very improved group, but so far we're not seeing it.
Now we go to the defensive side of the ball. We beat up on the offense a little bit. These got some question marks in the future. The biggest thing for the offense is going to be, and we'll probably cover it at the end, Mike, as far as a couple things that need to happen to get this program back on track.
Yep.
But I would strongly recommend that we invest in Brock Glenn or Chroma Hoke, and I'd probably lean Chroma Hoke. I think he's a more talented prospect, and I think he's the future of Florida State. That's not to discredit Brock Glenn. I'd love to be wrong and have Brock crush it and hell take over this year and win us some games.
Yep.
But I think Chroma Hoke is a guy, and I think keeping it in house. Got Trevor Jackson, got another talented quarterback coming in with this class,
Yep.
and we'll have 4. And just keep it in house and let's roll. Let's roll with our dudes and let's build this thing. I think Chroma Hoke is a guy who can lead us back to playoff contention. Just the prospect of him, I think that's what his ceiling could be, and I'd like to see that. That being said, defensively, Mike, I think our defense has been decent. There's been a lot of complaints about the D-line, and I think they're warranted. They have underwhelmed. We've got a lot of NIL investment in our D-line, and we're not exactly seeing it on Saturdays. But all in all, the defense has fared decent. The offense has really put them in terrible spots, has not moved the ball, has not been able to keep the ball, extend drives. Defense has been on the field for a lot of snaps. So when we look and see who's been productive, Shaheem Brown leads this outfit, even though he missed the last game. He's got 21 total tackles. Cam Riley's got 19. Lundy's got 18. Lundy's play hasn't been the best. A guy who's flashed, who we're pretty excited about, is Blake Nicholson.
Yeah.
I think he looks like a guy who's going to be a fixture in the future. And then when we look at guys as far as being productive in sacks, a guy who popped out to me when I looked at this is Daniel Lyons, 2.5 sacks. That's a guy that I think can help us. Peyton has 1 sack.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, to be frank, based on the production of what I've seen when I watch him play, Daniel Lyons is the best defense lineman they have, based on what production, and that's what I'm going by, production. He's making plays, and the guys that were supposed to be doing that just aren't doing it. But yeah, Daniel Lyons is certainly one that I would certainly invest in. I mean, watch him, the way he gets off blocks. He doesn't maybe have quite the impact skills that maybe these other guys have, but he's finding ways to get to the ball carrier. He's finding ways to get to the backfield, and certainly a guy that I would certainly invest him.
There's only one interception to speak of, and that's Justin Cryer, and it was a controversial one, but he did make a great play, grabbed it. Um, the defense has held the line and kept us in some ball games when it could have really got bad. We've got 6 sacks in 3 games. That's 2 a game. That's down from last year, obviously, and 1 interception and no recovered fumbles. So we've created 1 turnover in 3 ball games.
Yep.
Unsatisfactory. It's not enough, especially given the struggles on offense. So as we look to the future,
Yep.
and we look to see kind of what we've got, there's going to be guys with eligibility. There's 4 of them, and Peyton, Jackson, Farmer, and Jones Jr. all have eligibility for next year.
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen there. All 4 are talented players. I don't know what their draft stock is going to be because they have not done anything this year. They've been outperformed by Daniel Lyons, who's a redshirt sophomore. Obviously, he'll be back. You've got KJ Sampson. You've got Durjaye, who also will be back. Grady Kelly will be back.
Right.
So we have some depth there. What we thought was really going to be a strength. I just don't know if any of these 4 guys will come back. I got to think Peyton goes. Jones Jr. is a guy I think could maybe stay because of the pull, the lineage, and the fact that he could be a feature end next year. I don't know about Farmer and Jackson. I don't know where their draft stock's going to be because they haven't been very productive. What are your thoughts there as you look at the D-line? And again, we're projecting into next year.
Yeah, I think it really just depends on kind of their draft stock and stuff like that. But yeah, you're not feeling likely they come back. I think Marvin will probably come back just because there's growth there. Certainly, he's close with Pat. He's the DB coach. There's a lot of connections there, and he loves being here, and he loves the Noles. I mean, like I said, investment in the Noles is a big deal. They invested into it. I would be surprised if one of Jackson or Farmer come back. I just would not be surprised, or even if they both come back, if they're not satisfactory with their season. Pat, I agree with you. I think he's probably going to go. But outside of those, I think the other ones are kind of 50-50 when I look at them. Just did you do enough to impress people? And I could see them if they feel like they didn't, then they come back. But I do feel confident that Marvin would. But overall, the one guy you mentioned that isn't talked about enough, and the one I like a lot on the defensive line is KJ Sampson. He's really good. Like he is one that was a freshman last year. I think he's a guy that is going to be a big part of this team, a big part of their future, and probably one of their best future stars on that defensive line. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think if I'm looking at this plan just loosely and I'm spitballing and I don't have any feng shui, I'm not going to call Norvell and give him my master plan. Not that he would listen. I don't see Peyton, Jackson, or Farmer coming back. Just my gut. I just don't see it. Maybe 2 of them probably should. Pat probably should leave. I think Pat's going to be a successful NFL guy. Jackson still's got a lot of growth. Farmer's got to be more productive. I do think Jones Jr. comes back. I think we're in a prime spot to take a couple really good transfer D linemen, and that's a spot where I think we just crush it out of the park in the transfer portal. When you look at Fisk, when you look at Burst, when you look at Jermaine, those guys were unbelievable, ended up leaving here first-round draft picks. That's a spot where I think we have great success. I say we probably get 2 in the portal, and if we can NIL and convince Byron Turner, I think he's a slept-on guy. He'll be a 5th-year senior next year. Extremely productive. I really, really like Byron Turner. He should play more. If I was coaching, he would play more. And I think the combination of Turner, Jones Jr., 2 guys out of the portal will be enough at the edge. I really like that. And inside, Daniel Lyons is playing his ass off. Best D lineman on our football team right now. KJ Sampson, you're a big fan. Grady Kelly, he'll be a depth guy. And Durjaye is a guy who's playing a lot of football. So you have some stuff to work with on the D-line, and especially if you grab a couple guys in that portal. I think you could have a really good D-line next year.
Yeah, I think the defense is easier to maneuver when you look at this of what you can get and the pieces you can add from the portal. But I think it definitely sets up pretty well based on what we've seen. A lot of these DBs and even linebackers, most of them are young, so there's a lot to work with.
Yeah, we go to linebackers real quick. Lundy's gone. Cam Riley's gone. Cam Riley's been pretty productive. He got banged up on Saturday. Hopefully he's going to be all right. Lundy's been a disappointment. Went to the portal and we got him back. And regardless, he will be a redshirt senior this year. So hopefully he can finish the year strong, up his draft stock, and go be successful in the NFL. But looking towards next year, Omar Graham's a guy's going to play a lot of football. Blake Nicholson's a guy we think 15 pounds away from being a really good Florida State linebacker.
Yeah.
Justin Cryer has made some plays. He's the only guy who's got an interception on the year. I think Cryer can help us. Have not really seen much of DeMarco Ward. We need some help here. We'll probably need a couple more in the portal. And I don't know if you know of any freshmen that are on the team currently that are shirted that can help us next year.
I think one of they're two of their best linebackers I've seen. Is just when my passes the eye test when I watch it is Blake Nicholson and Juice Cryer. That's his nickname Juice, but
Okay.
he's been the best guys. I think they're the future. When you look at this team and watch them the way they play, as far as young linebackers, I'd watch out for Jaden Parrish. He hasn't played this year yet. He's a true freshman. He's a
Okay.
guy that I certainly like, that I've been pretty high on. And then certainly we just have to see what they sign in the high school market right now. They have one linebacker commit and Ethan Pritchard, but we'll see what they can get for the rest of the year. I think that depends. That would depend what they do. The portal. I think they might add one more, maybe add a portal kid to come in there, just whether it's competition or whatnot. But overall, I think they're in a pretty good place with their linebackers of what they have on the roster already.
Now, going to finally the defensive backfield, this is where I think this team could really have some punch. Fentrell Cypress, he gone. He's really the only one. Shaheem has another year.
Yep.
Conrad's a sophomore. He'll be back.
Yep.
Noles, he's gone. Okay, so Noles and Cypress will be gone. Devontae Brown will also be gone.
Yep.
But there's a couple decisions that are going to have to be made. Shaheem Brown and Azariah Thomas. My gut says Azariah is going to be really torn because I think he's a guy that we can NIL. He's deserving of it. Azariah has been nothing but an exemplary Nole. He's just a quality kid. He's a guy, and we're going to talk about this at the end. If I'm asking for NIL contributions, I want it to go to a guy like Azariah. I want it to go to a guy like Hakeem. I want it to go to a young guy like Lester. Those are the guys I want to invest in and make the fabric of my team. Good kids who represent. They haven't played around. They've been here. I don't necessarily want to go pay for mercenaries when I've got guys here that can make a difference. If you bring Shaheem Brown and Azariah Thomas back, and you have Conrad Hussey, and you've got Quindarius Jones, you've got Charles Lester, and you've got Kai Bates, and you've got Edwin Joseph, you've got a hell of a secondary. You got the makings for a hell of a secondary next year. That could be a strength.
Yeah, I think Azariah comes back. I think I know the family really well. I know his mom really well. Sweet mom, and Stephanie, love you. You're awesome. He's sweet as can be. But I just know this kid, the way he's built, is built on winning. And I don't think there's going to be enough tape of him this year, for what we've seen so far, unless he just goes crazy, just has a crazy year where he just goes crazy with the picks. I think he's going to be back. I love Shaheem. People know how I feel about Shaheem. That's one of the kids that I have a real strong personal relationship with. I love it. I love his attitude. I love the way he plays. I totally agree with you. If I'm giving NIL to anybody, those are two kids that are going to be one of the highest on my list because they have that dog. They have that Seminole no way in them. So they're gonna do whatever it takes to win and fight. And those are the guys that you have to invest in, people that invest in the school. And those are guys that are invested in Florida State. So those are the guys that I'm certainly going to, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be invested in guys that I know, without a shadow of a doubt, when these guys play, they're going to make plays. They're going to deliver.
And there's more too, Mike. I mean, we talked about Quindarius Jones. You've got Kai Bates, a big-time freshman. You've got Earl Little, who's played a lot of football. And you've got KJ Kirkland, a guy that you've been high on that's had two great camps. So this secondary really has some pop. We really have some guys here that we can do some things with. And it's just going to come down to, hey, you look at what Ohio State did this year where they went out and they paid a lot of money to keep their guys. They went out and they got a lot of guys. And we talk about it for years, paying players was illegal, and some schools were doing it, getting away with it, but it's legal now. They went out there and they built their team, and they paid some big-time guys like Travion Henderson to come back, Denzel Ward to come back. They paid guys that they really were vested in. And I think we're in position to do that with a couple guys. Marvin Jones, I know he transferred from Georgia, but he's a Nole. Azarea, those are two guys, and Shaheen. These are guys that we need to make sure are back in Tallahassee. If we want to build this thing up the right way and get this thing ascending, I think we need to focus on those kids.
Yeah, you have to, and I think if it's ever learned this year, and I'm not dissing the other guys that they got paid big NIL, but you have to value and understand and hit with the guys that you know you can trust and know you that have value of that you just a value you can't live without, and get that, and get those done, and make sure you're aggressive and in getting those done, and those are going to be and plus they're going to be leaders on your team. Cheyenne Brown's a leader. Zaire Thomas is going to be a leader. These are the type of guys that are going to be leaders in your team, and you need to have those type of guys that are to be the ones that you value, and you have to make sure you hit on them. And then switching over to high school recruiting, they have to get a lot more aggressive with the way they're recruiting with NIL. That's something they're going to have to do. Um, just from my perspective, you know, NIL people, from the FSU side are more willing to pay NIL for high school kids because they're invested in your program. They're committing to them. You're getting them out of high school. People are going to be invested in that, so they have to invest in that a lot stronger than what we're seeing. And that's it. You have to. There has to be a stronger value from the NIL perspective for guys that are in your program, and then guys that are potentially could end up in your program from a high school market. They have to do better there. They're not doing enough. High school recruiting is not where it needs to be as far as FSU to compete with the big boys. They have to be up there. The only way you get up there is the bag. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the only way.
it's
You gotta value these guys, and it's the best time to value them because yeah, there's going to be some in there that you're going to have the Jeremiah Smiths where you can have big NIL deals, and there's going to be ones where you go in there, but most of these guys you just have to value them and aggressively going after them, and that's what need to shift is, in my opinion, to what FSU's doing currently. I think it's like 60-40 portal over high school recruiting, and it just can't be like that because I mentioned the freshmen that you have to get on the field, but it also goes with the value of high school recruiting. These guys need to know that they're prioritized, and I don't think we're doing as hard as they can, and that's something they have to improve on with how they pursue high school NIL compared to what I guess we've seen so far.
Well, as we look at the recruiting class now, and I mean, I know this is kind of your baby here,
Yep.
and you can just give like a hot or cold, how secure you feel with some of these names, because I see some guys in here that could really be helpful. I mean, you look at a five-star interior lineman, Solomon Thomas out of Rains.
hmm
How do we look for him? How do we look for him?
I'm concerned with all of them, Rico. If you be honest, they're 0-3 and they haven't won a game. So, um, anytime your product is this bad of a shift, I do feel good that he will sign with FSU, but I'm not going to lie that there isn't concern. I think there's concern with all of them, but he's probably a mild concern, but because the long time relationship with Atkins is really really strong, um, I'm concerned with all these guys that your commitment. I'm concerned with it outside of Peyton Joseph, who shut down his recruitment. But even the guys that shut down their recruitment, it doesn't mean anything. Javion Hillison said that, and then he flipped he decommitted. So there has to be some normalcy with the product to a certain degree. So they have to get a hold of this. But for now, I'm a little concerned about just everyone. Not that there's any red flags and I'm like, oh, this guy could flip. I don't think there's any guy that he could flip from FSU or leave or decommit right now. I think the ones that have decommitted is kind of where they're at. But if this thing continues to materialize like it's going, you know, you get more doubt and it puts more doubt in these kids' heads. So I think it's a concern
Yeah.
until I think they get some normalcy. And normalcy doesn't mean you win 10 games, it just means you look better on the field and the product's better. Believe it or not, yeah, no, I have a really good experience in this in 23 years with it. Recruits don't care, per se about all the wins. They care about what their future program looks like on the field when they watch them. That's what they want to see
Right.
because they're investing into that program, what they're going into. Doesn't necessarily have to be 10 or 11 wins. That's the thing FSU fans just think that, oh, FSU has to win 13 games or they're just going to lose kids. Like, no, it's about the consistent model of the product. And right now, FSU's coming off one dynamic year. Outside of that, as Rico said and told me before, 6 to 8 years, it's been problems. So
Yeah,
there you
I'm just
go.
looking at this recruiting class, and I mean, I know we said we weren't going to beat up on any of the coaches, and all the coaches have been, really kind to me, and they always open their arms up to former players and stuff, and
Yep.
so I don't want to bash any of them, but there's looking at this class. I mean, something's glaring. We have one linebacker commit. He's a 3-star. Not that star rating's everything, but
Yep.
Ethan Pritchard, 6'1", 200 pounds out of Stanford. He's
Yep.
it. I see a 4-star tight end. I see 4-star safety Gregory Thomas out of Heritage. I see
Yep.
a 4-star quarterback. I see a really exciting receiver class between Clark, Wiley, and McCutcheon. This is just not going to get it done at the linebacker recruiting spot. I mean, again, we're not beating up on coaches here, but that's just not going to get it done. It's just not going to
Yep.
get it done. We're landing big time guys on the offensive line. We're landing big time guys on the defensive line. We're landing guys at the wide receiver position, the tight end position, the quarterback position. We've got a 5-star running back who's a freshman now. Linebacker, what's up? We've got 4-star safeties. Linebackers, what's up? What's up with FSU linebacking recruiting? It's just so poor in comparison to the rest of recruiting. I don't understand. It's completely unacceptable, and there is no excuse for it because there are a lot of in-state linebackers to choose from. There are a lot of linebackers, and the AOR of FSU recruiting, Southern Georgia, Southern Alabama, into South Carolina. You've got East Louisiana, all these places where we can go dip in and go get kids.
Yep.
And we're not getting them.
And not to pour on, but this is also coming off a year where you went 13-0, and you had two really exceptional linebackers in Tatum Bethune and Kalen Deloach. So you showed the production on the field, so you shouldn't really need to sell too much. And not harping on, I'm not going to say names, but it's like that's a clear problem with your linebacker recruiting, and that's certainly why I've said it before. I'll say it again. There has to be changes when it comes to or I expect changes, when it comes to coaches and what you're doing, and that goes with players as well. But yeah, there's a big problem of as far as certain positions of not living up to par of what you have to have to compete with the top teams. And yeah, I do feel there's going to be changes, but I'm not going to harp on any certain positions. But yeah, it's definitely there.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be some changes. There needs to be some changes, and there's just not enough that's currently in the cupboard at the linebacker spot for this recruitment to be so poor, which means we have to go to the portal again. And it's like we've developed this dependency on portaling because we're recruiting so poorly. And
Yep.
now when you look at the state of being 0-3, I personally think FSU will turn this around and possibly get to 6 wins. I think the range is somewhere between 5 and 6. Honestly, I think that's what we'll do. I know a lot of people disagree, but I don't know that winning 5 or 6 games is going to give you enough momentum in recruiting to get high school kids. We're going to have some guys that are going to leave early for the draft. We've already,
Yep.
earmarked a few of those.
Yep.
A couple of them we hope come back, but we're going to have a pretty decent sized class. What are you thinking? Are we going to get a full 25 this year, Mike?
I mean, that's the expectation, but where they're at right now, we're in a station. FSU's in a stationary place where they can't really do a lot until you see something with the product. Now, naturally, they're probably going to get some kids, but it's going to be hard to reach that 25 spot based on what I know right now. I got to base it on what it is right now, and it'll be hard to get to that 25 spot. Probably 20 is what I'm looking at, but overall, even that's could be a challenge. But that's why I mentioned this normalcy over and over, that it does matter, as far as the product. Now they'll add some guys, but I think overall, I agree with you that it's going to be hard to build momentum if you're only winning 5 or 6 games. Now, if they get it right and get it together and win 8, that will kind of salvage what has happened. But even still, there's still going to be doubt in people's mind of, okay, you started the season 0-3. People are going to remember that you started 0-3. and worried about if that happens again. So I think overall, it goes back to my point earlier. You got to be much more aggressive with the NIL from the high school market, and you have to be overly aggressive in just the high school recruiting in general. There has to be more there, and then um, until they get a hold of that, they're gonna have to focus, mostly on portal, and I don't think that's something a sustained process you want to do. You have to have those high school kids to really develop your team.
Well, I'm bringing this up because it's we've kind of leaned towards the future in this show, and this is why this stuff matters, Mike. August 30th, Doak Campbell Stadium, 2025, Alabama.
Yeah, it gets
Okay,
real.
I mean it gets real. It gets real, and it's not a joke. And this team's got to be ready. And we have got to make moves right now to get this team ready because Bama's the first game. And you look at this, I don't know who the hell AM Commerce Line sounds like FCS East in the college football game. But, I mean, Kent State, you're probably looking at a win there. But, I mean, that Bama game could get ugly if we're not ready. If that roster isn't turned over. And, I mean, we've played Bama first game of the year before, albeit it was in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and we lost our quarterback, screwed up our season. But this game's going to be at home, or the renovations are going to be done. It's going to be buzzing. That product's got to be ready. This year is just a shit year. It's an unacceptable bullshit year. We've done a bullshit job as a staff getting these guys ready. We've done a bullshit job as players being ready. Executing is all bullshit. It's garbage. And now it's about building this program so that this is the only year it looks like this. This is unacceptable. With the fan base, with the money that goes into Florida State football, with the history, with the people like yourself who put their blood, sweat, and tears into this program. This is bullshit and it's unacceptable and it should never goddamn happen again. And so my focus and the focus of this show and the focus really of breaking this down the rest of the season, even if we break down some Seminole games, which haven't been able to stomach for the first 3 games, they've been such dog shit performances, is about the future. Yep. What's going to happen in 25, 26, 27, because it gets real, guys. Bama, first game. Okay? First game. You guys keep scheduling this, and we'll have to do a whole other show for me to complain about FSU brass not giving our team a shot. LSU first game of the year. LSU first game of the year. Now we're in fucking Ireland running around drinking beer with leprechauns. Let's get a normal damn schedule like what Ohio State's doing. They're going to be undefeated, unscathed, heading into Big Ten play because they're playing Mary Poppins and the basket weaving tech, and they're all healthy and everybody's got their stuff. You can run through. We don't do that. Bama first game. You want this? Let's get the roster ready because right now, this roster ain't ready. And we've got to get it ready. And part of that's playing your freshmen, the Lesters, the Kai Bates, the Cam Davis, Elijah Moore. Let's see them. Get them on the field because it ain't about just this year. I'm not worried about salvaging some wins to save some of these coaches. Some of these coaches' asses need to go. Just going to come out and say it. I ain't going to say who, but some of these coaches' asses need to go because they ain't FSU level. I know what FSU level coaches look like, and they ain't it. They ain't Jimbo staff. They ain't Bobby staff. Love Coach Norvell. I think he's good, but I think he's got some dead weight and he's got to get rid of it. I don't give a damn. I don't give a flying F about saving these coaches' jobs by squeezing out some wins. I want to see these freaking freshmen play because I want to be able to have some confidence in 2025. We can look like a college football team instead of this bullshit that we got now. We have some dogs out there who are ready to play. They want to get out there, and it can't be worse than what we're seeing now. And I don't care about saving coaches' jobs and winning 6 games or winning 7 games, and then it's not so bad. No, I want to see the future because Florida State is the elite football program when it's run properly, when we play the kids that we have and we're not doing it. So when I get pissed off and I look at this, I look at the schedule, and I see Bama game 1, you better goddamn get your kids ready. And it starts right now. It starts this week. Getting some of them freshmen that you're going to depend on the field. Not these MFers that we're paying all this NIL. They ain't doing a goddamn thing for Florida State football besides getting their fucking bag. I don't care about that. I don't give a fuck about your bag. I care about Florida State football. Play these kids who can help our team going into the future because there's a bunch of them out there who aren't playing. Daniel Lyons, you should be starting because you're producing. I don't give a shit if you're not making $700K, don't have your jewelry in your Lambo truck. You're producing on the field. You should play. That's what Florida State's always been about. That's what Florida State should continue to be about. And if we're going to be a football program in the future that's worth a shit, that's what we need to get back to.
Yep. Everything's I mean Mike said it yesterday. Everything's up for evaluation. That's everybody. that's like coaches, players, everybody. You're up for evaluation, so you got to get this right. I think Rico said it with the fire that probably needs to be said because let's be real. What's going on is I'm embarrassed for them when I watch this. Like, so you got to get it ready, and you got to play these young guys. You got to find out who your best 11 is, and you got to get to work. And I know Mike's doing everything he can in charge and to fix this, but they have to fix these problems. I've addressed what the things think they need to fix, and they have to aggressively do these things. And if you're going to put these schedules out here and do this every year, you got to make sure you have the best product that whatever it takes, this is the best product, and these guys are going to be ready. I think Rico said it best and covered it, very eloquently. And like I said, everything's up for evaluation. That's the bottom line. Everything, everything.
Yep. You want to play the big boys? I can guarantee you this: whether it be Nick Saban, Bear Bryant, Pippi Longstocking, Pee Wee Herman, or Kalen DeBoer, Alabama ain't going 0-3 and rolling the same bullshit out week after week, and everybody's acting like everything's secure and job security. That don't happen at schools like Bama. So when you play schools like Bama, you better have your ducks in a row. You better have your things in order.
Yep.
And we've got, listen, all I want to see the rest of this season is kids playing hard, kids playing like Seminoles, and us playing our talent and developing our talent, which you can do in season. If we can get 6 wins out of that, awesome, because it gives us those extra practices to develop guys. I love it. Go for it. But I am not in the business of saving coaches' jobs or playing guys who don't give a damn about FSU, because that's not going to help us. And it gets real right off the bat next year. And I'm trying to save this program and save some of these fans some heartache and refocus what we need to be focusing on. We need to be pressuring this program right now to play the guys that are going to help us going forward. We blew it this year. We screwed up. People like myself thought DJ Uiagalelei was a great thing. It wasn't. We should have stuck with Tate Rodemaker. That's what we get for being greedy. We got to wear that. We got to eat that. That's on us for being dumbasses, thinking you can go and get portal magic and mercenaries every year and fix your program. You had a kid who knew the system. You had a kid who stepped up when your other guy got hurt multiple times, and he did the job, and you didn't respect him. You didn't give him the opportunity to win the job. You didn't give him the security saying, we're going to stay in-house, sit down with the quarterback room and say, you know what, guys, we're staying in-house. We're staying with you motherfuckers right here. You guys are the guys. It's going to be you guys. We didn't do that. So we're paying the price. This is what you get. Now, you bring a guy in here, nobody's vibing with him, nobody's playing for him. He's slow. He's got cement in his boots. He's not comfortable, whatever the case may be. It ain't all on him, but none of it's working, and we're 0-3. That's on us. The decisions that we made in January affect us. We're feeling bad for ourselves because we got left out of the playoff. Maybe that had something to do with it. We were in a funk, whatever it was. It can't happen anymore. We can fix this in season by playing guys who can help us. We can get Destin Hill healthy. We can get Jalen Lucas healthy. We can finish off this class. We can go get kids who want to be Noles. We can NIL the guys that are going to actually help us. Guys are paying an NIL. We've got $12 to $13 million on the roster. The money's there. We could probably up that to 15, but you ain't going to up it by paying a bunch of guys who ain't giving a shit worth of effort on the field. And you got freshmen who want to play sitting there pissed off because they're not even getting a shot. And they can't be worse than these guys out here screwing up. So
And
you gotta pay the right guys. You gotta play the right guys.
And that's why I mentioned you have to get this aggressive high school recruiting right. If you had high school recruiting and you were adding all these guys, you wouldn't be in this situation because you wouldn't be going the portal as frequently as you needed to, getting guys that you're trying to fill holes. You wouldn't need to fill the holes if you already had the high school kids. You need to be aggressive at high school. You need to be aggressive about guys that you need to have on this team from an NIL perspective, and you need to do it right. And this time they have a chance to get it right, but they messed up. This is a bad plan. It didn't work. Everyone knows. We've talked about it. 100 different reporters and media talk about what they did. Talk about the failures. Stuff I'm mentioning is stuff they've already called. I mean, the Athletic come out there with a story. They did not recruit. They did not do a good job building their development within the high school market. This is why they're in that position that they're in, and they're right. They're right. I can't argue with that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a long-winded rant.
Yeah.
I think Mike collected himself a little better than I did with it, but there's a fix there. There's a fix there.
Yeah,
You have guys that can help. I think a guy we didn't mention was LaWayne McCoy.
Yeah.
We did talk about him. He's another guy. You have some talent in this program.
They do.
Elijah Moore tore up the camp. You get Elijah Moore, you get Hakeem Williams, you get Destin Hill healthy, you get Jalen Lucas. You got some dudes. You play Chroma Hoke, you play Brock Glenn, you get them, those guys, they should probably be battling for that number one spot. I don't want to see us go portal for quarterback. I don't want to see that.
I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't. I don't see that happening again. But and then for the group, that's like, my opinion is, people like, I know people are going to want to know, like, how do you fix this, Mike? What can they do? I think it's going to be essential that they find a way, whether it's playing DJ and Brock at the same time. Yeah, you don't have to have Brock in there throwing the ball, but you have Brock in there as a threat to run the ball. They could do something, Wildcat or whatever, whether it fake a Wildcat and let him throw, let DJ throw or something. But you have to have some kind of threat in there to run the ball. And I think Brock's still certainly a pivotal part. He's very athletic. He's one of the faster quarterbacks they have on their team. He can certainly run that. So that's my solution as far as if you're doing something, that's what I would do. But they have to find ways to improve this team. We talked about the stuff they need to do going into next year, and they need to do that. But for this team, you have to give them every opportunity to offer up explosive plays. We know what the talent is on this roster. There's talent everywhere. Tollfieldy's not getting the ball near the amount of times he needs to get the ball. Ja'Kai Douglas is not getting the ball either. They define ways to get the ball. They're playmakers and find a way to create this running game. They have to, if they create this running game, Rico, I don't think there's a team that they play that's like that they're totally out of question that they can't beat. But they have to figure out this rushing attack.
Yeah, we've got to get something rolling here, and just looking at the schedule, which hopefully you can see it. I've got it pulled up here.
It's small, but I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's Memphis game is done.
Yeah.
We've got the California Bears, big game.
They're good.
I think
They're good.
I think it's a big game that we just have to win. I think Norvell just needs this win.
They're 3-0, guys. They're 3-0. And I watched them last weekend. They're good, but they're not totally explosive on offense. So there's something FSU can work with there. But I agree, Rico, you have to win that game. It has to start somewhere. So you have to start week. You gotta get something going. This team has to get into a rhythm in some capacity, and that goes with offense and defense. I think rhythm-wise, defense, I'm starting to see some stuff last week. We talked about that a little bit, that they've been decent last week, but you started to see some wake up from the defense last week. So they need to build off that, and then the offense has to find a rhythm. Can't win these games if you're just totally out of rhythm the whole game. Can't win it. I mean, they probably would have won this game against Memphis if they didn't turn the ball over 3 times. Punt returners getting bumped in by somebody, fumbling the ball. TJ's throwing picks that look like punts. You just can't have turnovers with this team, and they got to find a way to generate something to get in a rhythm with this team, and that goes with the rhythm and also just the emotion. Because when you're making plays, people get excited, but it's hard to get excited when you're not in rhythm.
Well, I mean, to me, this schedule kind of breaks down to try to finish this up.
Yep.
I mean, California is a must-win game. Then you're at SMU. That's also a must-win game. They've struggled a bit. They lost to BYU. They don't look like world beaters. Maybe getting away from Doak in country will help a little bit, help with some of the distractions. You want to get back to this Clemson game with some dignity. And if you win 2 football games, you come back 2-3. Fan base gets excited. You have a shot. You have a shot to play Clemson, and you have a shot to change the narrative of your season in that game. You have a real shot if you can win those 2 games, get to the Clemson game. Clemson game happens. If you can pull off an upset, outstanding. Then you get into a bye week, and then you're at the Duke Blue Devils. So you have a shot there. You want to get to this Miami game. Miami obviously looks like a beast on paper. They look really good. We don't know how good the Gators are because the Gators got blown out twice at home, but Miami has looked really good. That looks like a really tough game, but it's a rivalry game. So you want to try to just get to these next stages. This stretch in October, late October and November looks rough. I mean, you got at Miami, North Carolina at home. North Carolina's got a quarterback that's missing, but this is going to be, 6 or 7 weeks into the season. They're going to be accustomed to the new guys, so they're going to be tough. And then at Notre Dame, that looks like a tough place. But hey, NIU did it. If NIU can go in there, then Florida State can fix their shit and go in there and be competitive. And then you have a bye week, and then, of course, you have Charleston and you have the Florida Gators. But when I look at this, I could see a win against Cal at home. I could see a win at SMU. You know, Clemson, I think, is a real toss-up. I think we'll be real excited to play. I think DJU might be really excited to play. That's a push. You know, even if you lose that, you're 2-4. If you win it, you're 3-3. But if you lose it, you're 2-4. I see a win at Duke. You know, you could be 3-4 there. If you drop the Miami game, you're 3-5. But I see a win at home, North Carolina. That puts you at 4-5. You know, and then you've got a Notre Dame game that's going to be really tough. Probably puts you to 4-6. And again, I'm just going off of right now. If we look different in a couple of weeks, I might change it. But if you're 4-6 going into Charleston, you're 5-6, and you have a home game to get a bowl game, to get those extra practices, I totally see the possibility realistically to go 6-6. That's not beating a single ranked team. That's losing to Clemson at home. That's losing to Notre Dame and Miami on the road. That's not beating a single ranked team. And that's winning 6 games. That has to be possible with what's on our staff. That has to be possible with what's on our roster. If it's not, you have to have major shakeup. We're not firing Coach Norvell. He'd get $10 million a year for the next 5 years, $50 million that we'd have to pay him to go sit at home. That's not happening. Norvell's not getting fired. Norvell is staying. But that staff needs to get shook the hell up like a damn Christmas bowl. Okay.
Yep, you're right, man. I think regardless, there should be shakeup. But definitely, there's a lot that needs to change. I think we've covered that. Schedule is certainly going to be challenging, but I think the pivotal part of this season for them is these next 2 weeks. And if you can win these 2 games, it really sets up where I know it sounds far-fetched, but you can get to that 8-win part if you get these 2 games. If you win a few games that maybe you're 50-50 that you're not supposed to win, but you can get it done, it could happen. But in order to get that created, guys, you have to win these 2 games.
Yeah, you got to see. And it starts Saturday night in Dope,
I'll be
7
there.
p.m. ESPN is also going to be there. So let's see it, boys.
Diane will
That's
be
all
there.
well, if Diane's going, we got to win. But that's all we got right now. It's the Mike and Rico show, breaking it down, state of the nose, 0-3. Where do we go from here? We've covered the possibilities towards the end of the show. We've talked about the future through the first part of the show and through the middle. We've gone over the roster. We have some bright spots. We just gotta get to it. We got to start playing ball the right way. We got to start playing the right guys. We got to start building. And I think we can accomplish those things. I think right now, a successful season for Florida State, given where we're starting right now, is 6-6, get a bowl game, go to 7-6, and develop for 2025. And I think the reality is Florida State is not a national powerhouse right now that's going to reload every year and be a playoff team every year. I think we have to build towards it. I think 2023 was special. We were a playoff team. We were a national championship caliber team. Regardless of what the committee thought, that's what we were. And we built it up that way. And it took some years to get there. It took 5-7, then 10-3. And it took those incremental increases to get there. And I think that's the kind of program we are. I don't think we're every year just going to lock and load, be national championship. But I think we can go 7-6 this year if we get our shit together. And then we can maybe go 9-3 next year. And then we can build. And then we can get to that 11-win mark and really vie for a playoff spot. I think that's just being realistic.
Yep, you can do it, but you have to stay consistent on the stuff that Rico's mentioned, and certainly the stuff I've mentioned, both in recruiting and your player NIL stuff. You have to be on that stuff, and if they are, they can go on a 5-year stretch of being consistent. But in order to do that, you have to do the big boy things.
Well, that's all we got. Signing off. This was an hour and 20 minutes of Nole talk, and we look forward to doing another show and breaking this down. Maybe we can do a State of the Noles in 3 weeks. Who knows? Maybe we'll be 3-3 going into a bye week. Maybe Christmas can come early in October.
I'll settle for 1 win to start with.
We'll start with one. We'll start with one with the former Pac-12 Cal. Let's see if we can get it done. All right, signing off, guys. See ya.